Okay, boys and girls, this is Mrs. Brown. I wanted to make a quick video on photosynthesis so you guys can be prepared for the test coming up on Monday. I want to go ahead and start off with this diagram right here. I think that this diagram is very detailed and colorful, and it's straight to the point. All right, so this is a picture of your chloroplast. The chloroplast has a white line going right down the center on this diagram to separate the light-dependent reactions from the light-independent reactions. Your light-dependent reactants that come in are water and light. And the water and light, along with a lot of series of reactions that takes place in the thylakoid membrane, enables for it to produce high-energy electron carriers such as NADPH and ATP. And the product also is oxygen that we breathe in. Now, your light-independent reactions do not require light. This is where the Calvin cycle takes place in the stroma. Although stroma is written right here, the light-independent reactions takes place anywhere where you see this fluid at. That means underneath the thylakoid, on this side, everywhere. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's your diagram that I gave you earlier today. You're going to need 4 colors. You're going to need a yellow, a blue, a red, and a black. Hopefully I could do this video without causing my iPad to fall on the floor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with the yellow. Your thylakoid membrane is composed of series of photosystems and proteins embedded inside of the membrane. The protein's job is to allow molecules to diffuse in and to diffuse out in order for your high energy molecules to be created. Okay, try to do this without being able to see so well. All right, so the light comes through the stroma, and it hits the photosystem 2. Inside photosystem 2 and photosystem 1, you have light-absorbing pigments called chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and carotenoids. All right, so your chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, they do an excellent job in absorbing all the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, except for green. They reflect green. Your carotenoids absorb many other colors except for your yellows and your reds. So over time, as the temperature starts to decrease going into the fall, your chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B don't get as much direct sunlight from the sun. So the photosynthesis production of chlorophyll A and B begin to decrease. And that's when you'll start to see the color pigments, carotenoids start to show. Okay, so once your photosystem 2 gets the energy from the light, we're going to go ahead and use our yellow to indicate where the electrons are going. So electrons get energized, super energized from the sun, and they start to travel from photosystem 2 to this protein structure embedded inside of the thylakoid membrane. As it passes through, it allows the protons that are kind of hanging outside of the thylakoid membrane to diffuse on the inside. So go ahead and take your blue color and then go ahead and draw some circles here. 1, 2, 3. 3 on the left, 3 on the right. These are your protons here, and you're going to find out in just a little bit where these protons came from. Protons are able to diffuse into the thylakoid membrane, into the thylakoid space. So just go ahead and draw an arrow from one proton on each side, just to indicate their direction. They're going from the outside to the inside. All right, so there's something else going on here simultaneously too as well. You have water that's actually coming in, because we said water was another reactant in photosynthesis. And we know that water is H2O. So we'll start off with 2 H2O molecules, okay? And we're going to go ahead and illustrate our water molecules with the oxygen being red, and the protons, which are the hydrogens, will be indicated by blue. Give you 2 water molecules. All right, so let's go ahead and count up your atoms that you have. So once your water gets broken up by enzymes, then you're going to be left with 4 protons, or we can call them hydrogen ions, and we have 2 oxygen atoms that are diatomic in nature. So let's go ahead and illustrate our 4 protons. And I like to do a little H plus next to them to indicate their charges. And then for your oxygen, we're going to go ahead and draw them chemically bonded together. So the process of water splitting is called hydrolysis. So let's go ahead and draw a line from the water, 2 water molecules, to it being split up. And we're going to write the word hydrolysis. Okay, and remember earlier in the school year, we know that hydro means water, lysis means to split or to break apart. All right, so now we've accounted for our protons and our oxygen atoms from our 2 water molecules, but we haven't talked about the 4 electrons that came out of it. Which leads me to go back up to the electron that's traveling through the electron transport chain. So this electron is energized in photosystem 2, travels past this proton pump, and as it goes through the proton pump, it allows the protons to be able to diffuse into the thylakoid space. And once it does that, it starts to lose energy. So electrons lose energy until they make it to photosystem 1 and they become re-energized. So while they're in photosystem 1, they get their energy and they're pumped back up again. They continue to travel through the electron transport chain and they pop out. And when they pop out, they actually do something to create our electron carriers that we were talking about earlier in our first diagram. Okay, so you know there's protons hanging outside of the thylakoid membrane out inside the stroma. So 2 protons along with 2 NADP pluses are fused together to produce 2 NADPHs. So that's your electron carrier. So we've had the 2 protons along with 2 NADP pluses and the 4 electrons chemically combine together to produce NADPH. This NADPH now is ready to leave and go into the light independent reactions where the Calvin cycle takes place. Now let's go ahead and go back down here. So those electrons did their job, okay, and this is continuing on over a long period of time. As long as there's sunlight, there's ample amount of water, the electrons are being produced and they're going through photosystem 2, they're traveling through the protein pump that's embedded inside the electron transport chain, inside the thylakoid membrane. And then all the while, as these protons are pumping through, there is a charge that is being created. So let's go ahead and draw about maybe 10 protons on the inside. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, put a few over here. I know I did just say 10, but just put a whole lot. The idea that I want you to get with this is that as the protons build up in number on the inside of the thylakoid membrane, or inside the thylakoid space here, having a positive charge, there's a greater positive charge on the inside of the thylakoid than it is on the outside of the thylakoid. So there's this concentration gradient, or this pull, this electrochemical pull that's going to be pulling these protons from the inside to the outside. Okay, and these protons actually go through this huge protein pump called ATP synthase. And as they get pulled through, so let's go ahead and draw an arrow from at least 2 or 3 protons traveling outside of the thylakoid. As they go through, this ATP synthase starts to turn, starts to spin, almost like a turbine. And as it's spinning over here, you're going to write down, let's go ahead and get a black one. Okay. You got your ADP and your phosphates kind of hanging out there. It allows the binding of ADP and phosphates to make ATP. Okay. Once your ATP is made, it is ready to be used in the Calvin cycle. Okay, so as a quick recap. Oh crap, you probably didn't even see that. Oof. All right. Water molecules, 2 water molecules, they get split through a process called hydrolysis by enzymes. 4 protons are released and 2 oxygens are released in a diatomic state. Oxygen leaves out of the plant cell through the stomata, going into the atmosphere so we can breathe it in. Then these protons right here start to build up inside the thylakoid space. The electrons from this hydrolysis will move through the electron transport chain as it is needed, okay? And as it goes through photosystem 2, it receives energy from the sun, and it gets highly energized. So these highly energized electrons move through the electron transport chain. As it passes through this hydrogen pump, hydrogen ions that are outside in the stroma diffuse into the thylakoid space. Now, those electrons gave up energy so this active transport could take place. So since it gave up energy, these electrons were kind of weak. And then once they hit photosystem 1, they get re-energized. And that re-energized state, the electrons come out of the electron transport chain, causing NADP plus to be combined with protons to make NADPH. That NADPH is ready to move into the Calvin cycle to make high energy sugars. So as this is happening simultaneously, more protons are being produced through hydrolysis, okay? And then you have protons being diffused, coming into the thylakoid space. And as a number of protons increases, the charge, there's an increase in positive charge on the inside of the thylakoid space relative to the outside. This creates a concentration gradient going outside, from the inside to the outside of the thylakoid. Now, this gradient forces the protons to move through this ATP synthase pump. As they move through, the ATP synthase churns like a turbine. So as it turns, it enables the ADP and phosphates that are hanging out here in the stroma to be bonded up to make ATP. And then ATP, along with NADPH, is ready to go out into the Calvin cycle for the light-independent reactions to take place. I hope this helped.